Okay, we're going to reconvene our joint meeting of the successor and the city council meeting. Successor agency and city council meeting. So we are at item 5. Review of proposed timeline and request for proposal for procurement of city attorney legal services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. In September of 2019, during the appointment of Special Counsel Costanzo, the City Council discussed us conducting a request for proposals for city attorney legal services. Then in October, the council directed staff to bring this matter back in January, which is why it is on the agenda this evening. So as directed by council, the request for proposals that was used last year during a recruitment process for the city attorney has been updated, and a draft timeline for proposed submittals, reviews, and interviews is included here, should the council wish to move on this today.
Do you feel this timeline is sufficient?
It is a timeline that moves along very quickly, but it is doable.
Okay. Well, one thing is selecting a city attorney, though it's a very important position. So we want to get our permanent city attorney as soon as possible, or go through the process of doing it as soon as possible. We also want to make sure that we do it thoroughly as possible. You know, we don't want to hasten it, but at the same time, we don't want to take too long. Find that right balance.
Yes, we looked at a timeline that showed, that kept things moving quickly. If for some reason the council were to decide that you would like additional time anywhere in the process, we do have the ability to amend it.
Or if you say, okay. So it's just a guideline, not something set in stone.
Once it is published, changing it is possible, but not midway.
Okay.
Unless we give everybody the opportunity to be aware of a new deadline. You just need to be fair.
Okay, all right. All right, any comments from council? Councilman Trino, any comments?
No.
Okay, do we have any recommendations or motions to approve?
Do you have the public? Did you ask the public to?
It's not a public hearing.
Okay. And did you ask for comment from the council?
Yes, I did.
Rose Robertson, 1057 Mill Street. Is there any cost to go out and search for a new city attorney?
Hold on.
kind of cost?
Rose, I didn't open it for public
Oh.
comment. Sorry.
You are going to open it, though, right?
No, I wasn't planning to because it's just said not, I don't think it warrants. Did you want to make a public comment? What?
I just want to know how much money it's going to be to go out for a search. Thank you.
It's not on here.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, there's staff time involved in doing the process, but as far as an additional fee, we're not using a consultant. This would be something that staff would post and handle the process with your direction.
Okay.
My apologies. Do you want to add some additional information on any advertising costs that may be incurred? So minimal advertising costs if we do
Just
beyond the website or something beyond that. Oh, in the newspaper, a local newspaper.
Any comments from the councils?
Well, you know, I'm gonna make a comment. You know, I would just recommend and just make just at this time take this off the table.
Do you recommend tabling it?
No, I'm recommending just take it completely off. And
What is your, okay.
you know,
Well-
I'm just you know, you asked me what I want, you know, or
I didn't ask if what you wanted, I asked if you had a comment.
request, you know, whatever, you know. At this time, I just what I feel. It's okay.
Okay.
But
Well, do we have a motion to approve with this timeline to put a RFP for new attorney services?
I'm sorry, repeat that, Louis?
Is there a motion out there to approve this timeline to go out for new attorney services?
And what's the time frame? I'm sorry, I got a little back noise.
Can you
Well-
read that?
On your packet on page 56, it just, there's a timeline posted there. Basically, it starts
I thought
on
you guys
January
had changed it.
22nd.
I'm sorry. I thought there was discussion that you guys were going to change it. That's why. Okay, so we're still sticking with the same time frame. I'll make a motion. We go RFP.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? I will second that.
So now you have discussion.
Okay.
You can have discussions. There's a second, right? So the reason I
Hold on,
asked
hold
on
on.
the check register was Community Development Director. That's an ongoing search. You're looking for that. We're still looking for a police chief. So we've got two major ongoing searches right now. Is that correct? In our city?
We've had so we are in the due diligence phase on the police chief, and we are in the phase of checking references. We had interviews for the community development director and for the economic development position.
Thank you. Okay.
Any other comments?
Okay, so I'm sorry, the economic developer and the planner, are they they're the same, I mean, they're separate positions?
We have a community development director that we are doing reference checks for. We did interviews last week.
Okay.
And then we have an administrative analyst for economic development
Mhm.
that we did interviews for last week, and we are checking the references on the top candidates there as well.
Okay, so those positions possibly may be filled.
Yes, we hopefully we'll be filling them very soon.
So those are three positions that we're ongoing looking to fill.
3 positions that we're doing are, we've done the interviews, and we're just doing the due diligence part now before moving forward.
You're in the final stages of.
Correct. We're in the, final stages.
And you've been integrally involved, you've been wholeheartedly involved in all three of those.
Yes, I have been involved in those.
And you would be involved in this one as well.
That is correct. I would be involved in this one.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I just want to make a few comments. Listen. It's in the best interest of our community that we always try to get the best candidate and the best services out there. And I think it's just our responsibility to go and do a search and see what can we get out there that will best help move our community forward. So if city manager, if you're, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you think this timeline is acceptable to you to conduct, then that's why I second that motion. Okay?
Yes, thank you. I do think that the timeline is doable.
You think, okay.
And if the evaluation of proposals, if once we have the proposals in, if we want to give ourselves a little more time to evaluate them, that is always something we can do. But the initial timeline of getting this document posted on the website and published to the submittals being received on the 19th, that first month, it's really on those wishing to submit to do their work and get us a proposal. So our work will begin we'll be very actively working on it once we get proposals back to bring them to you. Unless you have any changes you want made to the document, but like I said, it was a document that had previously been used by the city council in the previous recruitment process a little over a year ago.
Okay.
Let me ask a question, or can we make a decision or a recommendation to say, based, and I have to choose my words very carefully because of the past that we have experienced with a previous attorney and the attorney that we have now. So there's going to be some things that I cannot elaborate because of closed session. But the experience that I have to say that I've encountered, we didn't get the best advice from the previous attorney. And I think that this attorney that we have now has given us some great advice and has really helped us with some situations that we've encountered. Do we have to stay with this timeline here, or can we make another suggestion?
Isn't there already a motion and a second on the floor that we need to address first?
So this is yes or no to
I'm
do a
just-
bid on, to go
Just,
out to bid?
yeah, we're getting off
Scott, sort of
off
just-
subject.
This
Is that what
motion
we're,
was made.
is that what we're deciding
Let
on
them-
tonight?
Just,
But
just to go
motion
out
was
for the
made.
RFP. It's not to hire anybody or anything, it's just to
This
go
is
out there.
Yes or no to go out for an RFP,
The
correct?
RFP, that's all it is.
And if there's something related to this with some other direction the council wishes to do, that if it's related to this
Hey,
topic,
Rena?
but
Did you
that
have
is the
comment?
motion, and we do have
Yes,
a second.
Okay. Councilman Trio, you have a comment?
Yes, I do. So what I'm understanding is there's a motion on the floor right now to give our city manager the opportunity to go and open it up. Now, I'm getting some feedback or understanding that maybe some of our council members have another option or what they have going on. I'd just like to remind everyone that, we have a new year and, we're looking at the future of our community. And if you feel that city attorney that is here now, just vote him in. Let's make this happen.
That's not
But
on
at
the
the end of the
agenda.
day, we have to look out. He's been here more than 15 years with us. We need to make a change. So if you guys feel he's doing a great job, vote him in. But the motion is there. Let's put the motion out there and let's vote on it and let's move on.
Okay. Any further comments from anybody? All right. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Trujillo,
What was that? I didn't hear him, sorry.
the motion on the floor that you made was to issue the RFP.
Yes.
Mayor Franco,
Yes.
Councilmember Avalos,
No.
Councilmember Robertson,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Guerra.
No.
Okay. Motion
Discussion.
fails. So there will be no RFP going out. Okay. Could somebody call our city attorney back in?
Is there another motion or it just,
No.
No.
So at this time, we'll continue with an interim agreement.
Nothing's changed.
It automatically rolls. That's how the interim
Yeah,
agreement.
that's-
Yeah.
yes, please. There's a brief pause while someone goes and gets City Attorney Neil Costanzo.
Thank you. They're calling me out. I'm gonna go outside.
Okay. All right. Item 6. Introduction and first reading of an ordinance amending Section 1 of Chapter 7, Title 1 of the Selma Municipal Code relating to the section of Mayor Pro Tem, the selection of Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor, members of the council,
I'm gonna step outside, I might lose you.
this is an amendment to Section 1-7-1 of the Selma Municipal Code, which was the provision that provided for the annual selection of the mayor on a rotating seniority basis. You don't have to keep that methodology, but that's basically what I've done with this particular amendment. I basically have taken out of it the selection of the mayor, and I've kept in it the selection of the mayor pro tem according to that same type of rolling seniority system. So if The three council members that are up for election in 2020 all run. One of them runs for mayor, and you all win. The mayor pro tem, according to our seniority system, would be member Trujillo. By the same token, if all three run and lose, or don't run at all, Councilmember Trujillo would be our next mayor pro tem, because he is at that level of seniority, having not previously served in the position, and Member Guerra falls to the back of the line so far as seniority for that position is concerned. And so it works exactly the same way as it used to work with respect to the selection of the mayor.
Mhm.
If you keep it this way, you don't have to. There's at least three other ways you can do it. You can do it by electing the person from among the council members by majority vote of the city council. And if you do that, the common practice of cities around here is to set the term at 2 years, but you can leave it at 1 or put it at 2 or any length that you really want. The other way of doing it is to have that person selected by the mayor, much like you make assignments of council persons now. And of course, the other way you can do it is by drawing hats or names from a hat, doing it random, drawing straws that way.
A race across the street. So, fastest one gets there. So basically, simplify it. Let the mayor select. When the new mayor select, when you're appointed. Keep the rotation system as we have it, or vote amongst ourselves for the mayor pro tem, and then just a chance of fate, random draw, lottery system.
Correct.
Okay, and that's for the selection. So how about the length of term? Is it, we keep it a 1-year term, or is it a 2-year term?
It's up to you entirely. You can change it to a 2-year term, you can keep it at 1.
Okay. All right. Any thoughts, guys? Any council members? You have any preference?
Well, my preference is I would like to go to the election by the council and have have the pro tem do a 2-year term. And I say that, and I'm going that route because every 2 years, you're probably going to have a new council. So I strongly feel that the council should make that decision for the pro tem. So that's just my idea.
Yeah, I like breaking the cycle, the current cycle of just randomly having people assume the offices of mayor pro tem and mayor. I think it would be better for, in this case, for the mayor pro tem to be elected by council of peers. And I think a term should match the term of the mayor.
Sync them up.
Yeah, 2 years. So that would be what I would go for.
Jim, any comments?
Well, the good thing about it is I've seen both sides of it. As, you know, as a elected official. And I've seen other cities, and I'll be honest with you, either way is good. You know, even if you, I guess the old way is sometimes the values are a little bit better sometimes, because when your peers pick you as mayor pro tem, I think it's you're up for the job. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're not new. You're ready to rock and roll. And sometimes, but it's a preference sometimes in life. But I've seen it both ways, and hey, in my life, I've seen it, but I like, I'm old school. I like the old way. It's like anything in life. The more it's like work. The more you're in the business at work, the better you get. Like when you first start a job, you're new, you don't know anything. Hey, it takes time. And even in government, the same thing. And that's what life's about. The more you're in the business, the more you get things done right away. You become good at it. So a lot of times people don't see that, but it is what it is in life.
Councilman Trillo, you have any thoughts on this? Sorry.
Records show that Councilmember Trillo is not on the phone anymore.
All right, thank you. Okay, so, no, we don't have to continue.
I guess we could.
Because even if this is just an ordinance, we still have to go through a public hearing to it, right? To discuss it.
You do, and if we want to switch to the election method, you need to let me bring you back a rewritten ordinance, which is easy to do. That would just say that the mayor pro tem will be elected by his colleagues on the council by a majority vote and will serve a term of 2 years.
My personal preference, I like the idea of syncing it 2 years to match the mayor's term, but I also like the idea of the rotation. But I say we just take by consensus or a vote right here. I think we have a
Well, Johnny.
3-1 to go with elect by council. Is that what I'm hearing?
So do we need a motion?
Yeah, you know what,
Is this an action item or just?
This is- what is it,
I'll make a
discussion?
motion to,
It is an action item,
Okay.
and if,
I'll make a motion to go with election by council for 2 years for that option.
I'll second
a
it.
2-year,
Yeah,
a 2-year?
election
Okay.
by the council.
And I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Robertson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Avalos,
Aye.
Mayor Franco.
No.
see, we're always ahead of you, so we've already published this for
2 years.
a public hearing, so I will
2 year.
bring back the revised ordinance providing for the election of the mayor pro tem by his colleagues, but it'll be on for the first reading and introduction and the public hearing on your February 3rd meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And then, if anything, based on discussion that we have, or anything that, where the comments from the public, and we decide, oh, we want to change it to by peers, but by every year and stuff, we can do that during the process, correct?
You can adjust the ordinance during the process of the first reading and introduction, yes.
Right. Okay. Item 7. Introduction and first reading of ordinance repealing and reenacting sections 1-9, chapter 8 of the Title 4 of the Selma Municipal Code, abandoning shopping carts ordinance to define steps for shopping carts, containment system, retrieval, and abatement.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. The item you have in front of you is the first reading. What we're attempting to do is reassess our ordinance and structures to kind of go in line with the goals and priorities the council has set back in April of 2019. So to do that, one of the items we're looking at now is our shopping cart ordinance. More to restructure and kind of get in line with how we can assess the business appropriately to get this ordinance in place where we can make some proactive attempts, but be able to work with the business community so that we're communicating openly. So back in November 6th, staff and retail managers, we tried to develop a meeting to kind of get out there to the business community and see what works and what doesn't work for them. We gave them a draft of the ordinance at that point in time and kind of just worked through that process and how they would take it and how they'd interact it and incorporate it into their business models. We did have a couple organizations come. Luckily, it was 2 of the busiest ones, our biggest ones, I should say, which would be Walmart and Food for Less. So at this point, I'll kind of walk through what this ordinance kind of entails and what some of the details of it for a summary aspect. Okay? So within the process itself, you will basically start a cart program in a sense, in a way. Some of the requirements need to be to be done, there's a kind of a two-pronged approach to this. One, there's some that are required that you have to do. One, there's some parameters in which the size of your cart that you have will set you into a tone. So for the broad spectrum of everybody, cart identification is required. Basically what this does is business owners that have carts are going to be required to identify them to make sure that that property and who is the owner of that property. So for example, for now, you'll see that some of the smaller communities or smaller businesses are actually purchasing carts at auction. Well, when we actually see them around town, because we do want to address the blight, we have to try and assess that, but we don't know who the property owner is. So that becomes a problem at that point in time. Now, creating this ordinance will allow us to go back to the business community and say, okay, you're going to be required to do so. And there's some ramifications if you don't do that. Okay. Another parameter, which is we'll have the business owners have a daily cart retrieval. So they'll have to have some kind of program in place where they'll tell us, hey, when are you doing this and how are you doing it? Now, going further, for the bigger businesses, an abandoned cart prevention plan will actually have to be identified and brought to staff and actually approved. So basically the gist of that program was just getting the appropriate people to identify, because these larger businesses have these plans in place in some sense of the way. Really what you need is a primary contact and setting the structure and how we're going to work together to get this done. So part of the prevention plan that these organizations will have to develop will work with staff. There will be a fee to have this plan. The fee itself, which we'll go into more depth for the second reading, will be at a proposed $190 at this time. Again, that's working with staff, identifying the plan, what do you have in place, what works, and getting that plan approved or not approved. Okay? So some of the proposed items will be on on-site containment system. So again, we want to work with the business community. There's not a one-size-fits-all. There's programs that's such as like a Walmart or Food for Less or national chains. They do it across the nation. They know what works, what doesn't work, what can cost and what doesn't cost, and kind of identifying within the surrounding communities and what they're doing as well. So we want to be flexible and work with our business again. We don't want to just bind everybody to one ordinance. There's not a one-size-fits-all. It's more of coming back and having that collaboration and say, okay, let's assess this and what do you think works for you, and then we can have that open dialogue. Okay? So it also goes further into what the city's going to do now with this new ordinance. So in section 845, you see the city retrieval of the carts, where they kind of go into where the city can actually just pick them up. And we'll get up to a little more deeper process and what that looks like for the business owners and our aspects. But in that section, you can see that if the city can actually just go and get them if they see it's an issue and they need to address it. Okay. Some of the other
Isaac, my apology for interrupting.
Yeah.
But just since you're on that subject. So let's say there's a shopping cart. I'm just going to pick Food for Less, 'cause that's what popped in my mind when I said shopping cart. There's a shopping cart, Food for Less, and it's not being pushed by anyone. It's just off to the side of the road. And we drive by it, we being a representative of our city of Selma. Do we call public maintenance? Do we call to say, hey, pick it up? Or do we just drive by and leave a note on it? What in that particular scenario, what would be the chain of the steps?
And so for that process, you go back into the enforcement, which is later in section 848. What the process and how we see it envisioning is people report this to code enforcement. And now that we've stepped up our code enforcement, we now have 2 staff members that can take on some of that load so they can be more proactive when it comes to blight. So what we see it as, it gets reported, a caseload is developed. We turn around and we identify who the business owner, because remember, it goes back to each card has to be identifiable. Right. So that we give the business owners 3 days to pick it up on their own. Okay? If they don't pick it up within 3 days, the city will pick it up within 3 days. But if the city picks it up within 3 days, we again notify the business owner saying, hey, we now have your carts. This is just that process in which you do it. You have 3 days to actually communicate and come pick that up. After that, what happens after that 3-day period, they will be assessed administrative cost for picking up that item, or another number of carts or what it is. It's a flat rate. So whether it's 5 or 10, there's a flat rate process, so we can go through it. But what that means is within that 3-day period that they're given from notification that Public Works now has it, so after that 3 days, they don't get assessed that fee. So again, we're working with the business community. We want to be a partnership in this ordinance. So after that 3 days in which they do that, they are now to receive a letter that this fee has been assessed. You still have 30 days to pick it up, or within that process, you can take additional steps, whether it be to throw it away, we can sell it at auction, or however staff sees
So
fit to identify or
those-
do with that property.
Those 3 days that they're waiting, that you're waiting to be picked up,
Mhm.
it's at the public works yard.
It's gonna be held at the public works yard.
It's not still on the corner of Todd and McCall.
That's correct, yeah. After, so you have the 3
days.
days of communication from the city staff, code enforcement, to the business owner. Within that 3 days, once they get notified, they can do it on their own.
Yeah.
Once they don't do it on their own, city staff will then make attempts to pick it up on their own.
So it is there sitting for, so what if it's there 3 days and Eddie from junior high walks by and pushes it 2 blocks away?
That's going to be some of the give and take when we work through this process. We're going to have to see what works and what doesn't. Usually when it's there, it's usually staying there for some time. And not just that, it could be picked up by one of their cart retrieval persons already within that time
Yeah.
frame.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a working process.
If that process, is there anything legally, maybe you can check on this, I don't know if you know now, that would just eliminate the 3 days waiting period there? And
It
just
is
put-
within
and
the
just put
ordinance
it-
already.
And put it, I was just saying, pick it up, notify the owner, and have it at public works.
So within the ordinance structure itself, it does stipulate that city staff can automatically just pick it up.
Yeah, because,
And then you start that process.
yeah, no, I mean, 3 days may not seem like a lot, but when you live on that street, or you live in this town, it kind of feels like we are just like stepping over litter and just, keep on walking.
Understandable.
So, I think we need to look at, Teresa may have staff look at that methodology. If I understand, we're talking about an abandoned cart there, so you just don't want it laying there. All right, I'm sorry, continue on.
Yeah, again, it is in the ordinance where city staff can actually pick it up on their own if they see fit for additional reasons. So that's in section 845. Okay?
What's the procedure right now
Let me-
with Public Works? If you see carts, you guys are on it, right? I mean, you usually pick them up?
We usually pick them up and just.
And if they're marked, so I didn't want to interrupt you if you didn't finish, but
No,
were you
you're good.
mostly finished? So they have to be identified, so they have to have stickers on them or something. So
Right,
you
if the
have
cart's,
stickers.
if the cart's unidentifiable, we normally just pick it up and dispose of it.
And under this, you got to hold it 30 days if it's unidentified.
If it's
And then you can
unidentified, we
dispose
can
it.
actually dispose of it right away. Because per the
If it
ordinance,
doesn't
they're
have a
required
sticker.
to actually make that identifiable. And it's got to be permanently identifiable. So engraved or whatever, and built into the structure in some
This
sense
food
of
for
the way.
less are like
Yeah.
yellow. They're a bright, you kind of.
Yeah, Home Depots are
Walmart's, they
orange,
look-
same
Correct,
marks
but
are
they
red.
also got to have their name on them. It can't just be a color. It's got to
So
say
you-
food for less
doesn't
or
have to
whatever it
just
may
be
be.
a color.
I'm gonna jump in.
Mhm.
The keyword is identifiable.
It's identifying who the property is so we can actually contact them directly.
You know,
I have a
Can I-
question. To what level are you going to extend this? I mean, what if you see somebody pushing a food for less cart? You know, it's bright yellow, and they're coming on 41, or 43, I should say. And I mean, when you're identifying staff, does staff include PD?
It does.
Oh, it does,
It does,
okay.
actually, for the ordinance, and this ordinance, I should back up a little bit, was developed with kind of a group of staff,
Mm-hmm.
city manager, code enforcement officers, and the POP officer, okay?
I know what the
So
next
again,
one's
it's a tool for not just code enforcement, it's a tool for Blythe, but it's also a tool for PD as well. If they see somebody with a cart, like, for example, right now, if they saw one that was unidentifiable, you cannot determine whether that's somebody's property or some store's property. So you really have to go through that process and get these ordinance in place so they can assess that as well.
Isaac, I'm gonna interview in here a little bit. I like to see it a little harder. And Franklin made a comment, you're right, you see shopping carts all over the place. But if we put a city ordinance on the property owner businesses saying, hey, no longer can the people who take the shopping carts off the premises of the shopping center, and those who do take shopping carts off the premises are cited with a fine or a ticket. That'll kind of eliminate some of the issues that we have on the street, as far as people dumping a caravan running around, or like Sarah says on 43. This will then, hey man, that cart don't belong to you. That belongs to Food for Less or whatever. We're going to give you a ticket.
That goes along with this ordinance
You
as
know,
well.
I-
There are
we
some
gotta-
parameters
That
in
way
there
it
what
gives
we-
us, and then if you see carts in a private property, we need more teeth in private property. Say, hey, man, you got stolen property there, buddy.
Are
You
you
know what I mean?
allowed to have a shopping
You
cart
know what I mean?
in Selma? Am I allowed to just go push
If I go
a
to
shopping
Shane's
cart
house and I
around?
see 20
If
carts,
it's
say,
your
hey, man, I'm
property, I
gonna
would
get
assume
them.
you could.
Yeah. And if you don't know if there's clear legal title, would that be code enforcement who would get out and say, hey, is this your shopping cart? Or would that be PD that would ask them for some sort of proof of ownership of the shopping cart? Or would it just not happen?
Because that's an option.
'Cause we see
Since
people.
the cart belongs to a property owner, we would have to make contact with that property owner to confirm that they did, in fact, not give permission for this to leave their premises. According to the ordinance, I don't think they would, but if they made any exception and then they come out and we have witnessed a theft, or they can do a citizen's arrest on the theft of that shopping cart by the business.
Would it be unlawful search and seizure just to say, get your stuff out of the cart, pick it up, and we'll just take it back to Food for Less? Or call Public Works, can you come pick up this cart and, initiate the return to the owner? Because a lot of these, a lot of the, I think Councilman Avalos was saying, a lot of this is not about carts sitting out there, although there are a lot of them out there, Stonehenge-like, but it's about people taking them and using them from these areas. And how does this address and mitigate that problem of people stealing these carts and using them to move around their items in the city?
You get into a couple issues with not the search and seizure so much as, but if you are citing, arresting that subject, and they have property with them, whatever is in that cart that they claim is their property, we would have a responsibility to either keep track of that till they were released, or help them find somebody who will take it that they consent to. So we take some responsibility for the property in that cart when we even arrest them or return the cart to the owner.
Wouldn't it just be a ticket if it's less than a certain dollar amount? It's just a misdemeanor, it's just a citation, and it looks like this is an admin
It generally
citation
would
issue.
be a citation, but if you cannot identify their identification clearly, you'd know who they are, either through past contacts or something like that, or because of that, you need to take them to the station to confirm who they are, then that's when that attachment of safeguarding their property kicks in, and we would be responsible for as short as 30 minutes it could be, but if they end up having like a warrant and we transport them to county jail, we now have a responsibility to safeguard their property they had in their possession.
But I get it, and let's say I'm out there, I get it, and, I just say I found it. I just found it. I found this cart, on Rose and Orange.
Then
What is can you, that's not theft then? If you just say
Then you have
found it.
possession of
Stolen property.
stolen property or property that is not yours, and you did not make an effort to return property you knew was not yours. So you have some sections that you could use in those cases, but you still get whatever property is in that cart that person claims is theirs. We have a responsibility to safeguard that.
Seems
to
like
some-
the city's doing a good job of picking up the carts. Public Works right now, it's just, they proliferate. I mean, you gotta have the owners
Well, what it
who
is,
are
Scott,
involved
you're-
in this,
yeah,
coming
you're-
and
they're
picking them
they're
up,
picking
right?
them up and they're going getting them back, you know what I mean?
And then they're going back. It's like a circular flow.
Yeah. So we gotta stop that circle.
Does this mitigate? Yeah. Does this stop that cycle?
It actually does, because if you have multiple transactions where we're actually constantly picking up the carts, it then triggers into an admin citation process. So the admin citation process will start to stack up, and you'll see it.
Because I mean,
And then,
you can't cite people. Some people can't afford.
well, the admin site is
citation's
not
gonna be
for
meaningless.
the
It's gonna be
individual,
cart
it's for
owners,
the
right?
business owners. Correct. It's not, the admin site is towards the business.
How much does a
not towards
cart
the individual.
containment system?
We haven't got a full dollar amount on what it costs. It really developing the plan to see what works for that business.
And that's something where like the wheels lock if they go off.
We have talked to the business owners
parking lot.
regarding those. They are very expensive. In some senses, they say it just doesn't work. All they need to do is actually pick them up over the
That
border
seems to be
that's
like your
buried.
stick here. Like if you don't do this, if we have like 6 or more violations in 30 days, you got to put in a cart
And that's also
containment.
within the ordinance where it stipulates, if you develop the plan and work with us, but yet we're seeing multiple occurrences, we can now reassess your plan and insert different restrictions.
What if they don't do the cart containment system? They say, no, we're just not going to do it.
You just
What's
out of
the remedy
compliance
for
and you
that?
start going back into the admin
You
sites.
just keep finding them.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to a business, it affects their bottom line. You start seeing compliance in that sense.
You would think that's an expensive part of the inventory. You would think store owners would.
And they're
wanna
not cheap.
Keep their inventory.
Correct.
Yeah,
Isaac, you
expensive.
met with Food for Less and Walmart.
Mhm.
You know, what was their take on it? How did they feel about it?
They were willing to work with us.
They're okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
a step in the
Okay.
right direction.
It
Probably
is.
need some more teeth in the future, but it's a step in the right direction.
There are also different options for the containment mechanisms. Just don't want to throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, it can go to the sense where they have the rails and they just lock them. They put a chain around all the carts, things of that nature. So again, it's working with the business community to say what works for you, what is feasible. I mean, we don't want to just say, hey, you need to go buy a $50,000 containment system now, because one size, again, just doesn't fit all. It could be a simple fix.
So this is,
Also, excuse me, they could also put all the carts inside their establishment for the night and bring them out in the morning.
Right.
That doesn't cost, I mean, that costs you staff,
That's easy loss
Yeah.
control
but
right there.
as far as putting in a cart containment mechanism, that doesn't cost you anything.
Mhm.
Time.
Just secure them at night.
Yeah. And again, some stores can take that on because their facility is big enough to do so. Some can't. So it's working through the plan itself to assess that. And it's got to be approved by city staff.
But even if it's under 25 carts, they still have to come pick up their carts if you find them, right? Even
They
if it's
still
a
adhere
smaller
to the
market?
first two pieces of it, which is being able to identify the cart itself and being in compliance. So the first two items are cart identification and daily cart retrieval. So they're still bound by those two first items.
And then will we get a follow-up on this in like, say, 6 months or something? You know, like, how's it going? How many carts are, we'll have an idea by then if
audit of it.
it's working?
well, this is just introduction. It's not an ordinance yet, right? Don't we just,
We still have a
it's an
second.
introduction to
Just talk
have a
about it.
public hearing to make it an ordinance.
Correct.
So we can have a lot more discussion on this.
So it will be developed within the code enforcement system that they have. So there will be a tracking mechanism in that sense.
So what's the next step, a public
Yeah.
hearing item on this to amend the ordinance?
It's set for a public hearing on February 3rd.
But you need a,
If, you ever heard the phrase possession is 9/10 of the law?
Yep.
It's true. And that's the problem that the chief is having with, confiscating these carts from these people that are carrying them around. I think you can add to the ordinance you've got here and put in a little bit more teeth by creating certain presumptions. In other words, if you're in possession
Yeah.
of a shopping cart, we're going to presume it's not yours,
Yeah.
unless you own Save Mart or
Right.
Walmart or
you just.
that sort of thing.
Require proof of ownership?
You can only go so far. And like I say, possession is 9/10 of the law. I mean, if you've got
If you're
possession
Walmart
of
and you have a
this
sign
thing-
that says you cannot keep these off premises, then that backs up that presumption that
Yes.
someone.
And that's
has a
actually part of this
Walmart
ordinance
cart.
already.
Yeah.
There has to be appropriate signage for the
Yes.
facilities as well,
That's part
that
of
they
it.
can't take them.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. You need to build in a couple of little presumptions
Yeah.
about what a person owns and doesn't own that he's in possession of. If it's a shopping cart and it's identifiable as belonging to Save Mart or Walmart or whatever, you're going to write into that ordinance a presumption that says, we know this is not yours. And therefore, we can take it away from you.
We could take it away rather than issuing a ticket because.
But you're talking
I mean,
about the
come on,
card
a lot of
itself,
times
right.
You're never gonna get that. So
Th-
just
then-
be
then of-
real.
then of
If
course
you
you-
can take the cart, that's meaningful.
Then, of course, you run into the problem of the stuff they've got inside
Yeah.
these cards.
Can you leave it with them and just take the card?
Can you tell
Yeah,
them
okay,
to
here's
take it
the
out?
contents.
Yeah.
You can do that. You can do that.
Leave the
And the
contents.
problem typically arises when you're trying to take the card away from them with all the stuff inside. I mean, it's, let's face it, by our standards, what's in there is junk. But it's their property.
Right.
And this very thing is what the city of Fresno had to pay $1 million to get out of a lawsuit by the homeless people for.
But they actually took all their property, confiscated it,
Yeah.
and
They-
got
they
rid of
did.
it,
We
right?
just want
Got
the
rid
card.
of it.
They just
They
got the
did.
cart because it's
But
stolen. Their
we-
stuff was not actually stolen.
If you want to focus on the carts, we'll just build in there a couple of presumptions about what it means when I see you pushing a cart.
Cart, yeah.
Okay?
So,
And the code enforcement or officers can act on those
And then
presumptions
word gets
because
around, if you have a
it's-
card, it's gonna get taken, people won't have the carts
That's right.
anymore. Then, anyway, the carts, that problem, it could really reduce that problem.
That's one
Carts
way
around our
of
city.
adding a little bit more teeth to it.
Do any other
and-
cities do that? Have any other cities called carts contraband and just, picked them up and taken them?
Well, there's a company that do come in the area, do pick up carts.
But can they do that if somebody actually
the
has
only-
a
the
cart?
only-
I know they'll
You
pick
go
'em up,
back
they
to
see 'em
the
on
issue
road.
of, part of that is the marking
Yeah,
of those
that's-
carts.
Correct.
So if you have a cart that, let's say somebody had a cart from a business that was no longer in business, who does that belong to now?
Right.
So you can't take that cart, but the cart that is labeled Walmart or Food for Less or Home Depot, that's the ones
Exactly.
you can then take and
Can
return
you
to
use the
their
color
owners.
to infer the ownership?
Pardon
Because-
me?
Can you use the color to infer the ownership rather than the name? Because it's easy to scratch out the name in some cases, but the color.
Again, when
They're-
you, no,
they're
because
resold
you've still got to
sometimes.
show
that was part of
ownership.
the ordinance where they have permit marking that the owner has
Correct.
to put
It's
on
not
the
going to be a
enforcement.
sticker, it has to be
Scratch it
permanently
in there.
imprinted
Yeah.
I
into
think
it, some
it's
format.
Identifiable.
A step in the
It
right
has to be
direction, they'll
identifiable.
probably need to.
And that's
implement
key
these
here, you need to be able to identify
A lot
whose
of time
it
put their
is.
little names on there.
Because then you can identify whose property it is. So that's the key element in there. And there is signage in here built into this ordinance. There's education that they're going to be required to give staff and things of that nature as
So
well.
I think this is good, but I would like to see a little more teeth in terms of the ordinance to
Well,
get those
yeah,
carts off
me
the
too,
street.
Scott. I like
Well,
to see.
Those teeth can be added during our public hearing cycle. And
I can add those teeth to it in the interim, and the ordinance that's brought back to you will have it.
Is this an action item, or is this just consent?
This is the first reading and introduction of this ordinance.
Okay.
So you would just, if you're
Need a
so
motion?
inclined, you would just move to introduce the ordinance and waive the first reading.
I'll make a motion to introduce and waive the first reading, repealing and reenacting the abandoned shopping cart ordinance
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Okay.
with the modifications.
Roll call,
that we
please.
discussed.
Councilmember Robertson.
Aye.
Councilmember Avalos.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Guerra.
Aye.
Mayor Franco.
Aye. At this point, should I go to the successor agency and handle that stuff? So, we're gonna do some successor agency work right here, and, consideration of a resolution of the successor agency of the former Selma Review Development Agency appointing an administrative budget for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 2021.
Why don't we let the record reflect that the mayor has recessed the regular public meeting of the city council and convened the special meeting of the successor agency,
Yep.
and that all board members, with the exception of member Trujillo, are present.
Okay?
Thank you, Chairman and board members. The item you have in front of you is our annual filing for the ROMPS. There's no major changes within the ROMS itself. We are merely sticking to the obligations we currently have, which is the 2010A tax allocation bond, industrial development bond, and the 1994 housing bond. Those obligations are outstanding, are listed in your staff report. This is merely, again, another item that we do annually. There is now, obviously, the oversight board is the county. We don't have one internally at the city. Each city does no longer have one. That changed back in July 2018. So that meeting will be held at the county in a couple days, on the 23rd. So I'll be there to tell them that the resolutions were actually executed today. Is there any questions?
No question. Do we have a motion approved?
I make a motion to approve.
Both items.
I only read the first one.
Thank you. Board Member Avalos.
Aye.
Board Member Robertson.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Guerra.
Yes.
Chairman Franco.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Item 2, consideration of a resolution of the successor agency of the former Selma Redevelopment Agency approving and reorganization obligation payment schedule pursuant to Health and Safety Code Sections 34177 for a period of July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021.
Sorry, we should have just took these two items at the same time.
I-
One is the budgetary item for the obligation, the other one is just the administration expense.
I was gonna say you explained both items, but
Yeah.
I only read one, so I had to read the other one into the record.
You're good.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve item 2?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Board Member Avalos.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Guerra.
Aye.
Board Member Robertson.
Aye.
Chairman Franco.
Aye. With that, I will bring the successor agency to a close at 8:15, and I will reconvene the Selma City Council regular meeting. And we are at departmental report. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As we discussed or mentioned earlier, we are working on the recruitments for the police chief, the community development director, and the economic development specialist, and we are doing our due diligence and reference checks on those positions. So hope to be bringing you good news here in the future on those recruitment processes. Also, we had a council request for City of Selma pins. These are lapel pins for the council, and we had a few in stock, so we'll go ahead and pass those out, and we'll be sure to give one to Councilmember Trujillo as well. So I'll send those on down. And last but not least, we also heard from Caltrans. We'd had many comments about, thank you, some of the encampments that are on Caltrans property, and wanted to let the council and community know that Caltrans did come up and work on the areas of Highway 99 and 2nd Street, the northbound Highway 99 Floral Exit, and Skelton Park areas. So those have been tidied up.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
City Attorney.
I have no report, Mr. Mayor.
ACM Finance Director.
Thank you. Just quick updates. In our next meeting, the beginning of February, I'll give a second quarter budget update. It was a little crunch for time at this point, so I thought it'd be best to do it on the first meeting. I also want to give you an update on the financial statements. The PFA is pretty much complete. The city is in the final drafts right now. They're completing the report. I should have a draft within the next couple of days. So we are almost fully completed. And then once we do that, we can bring it to council and do a formal presentation, just like we did last year.
All right.
I was wondering if we could get, make sure that we get notice of the Measure S and the Measure P meetings.
Okay.
Thank you.
Public Works.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, real quick from Public Works, we have completed demo at Ringo Park on the old playground structure, removed the footings, grading's complete. The installers will be there next week, and the installation will be complete before March 1st, and the whole project will be complete by the end of March.
Shane, quick question. The equipment that was removed, was that unusable, or is that going to be added to an existing, like Brett Linger Park or anything like that?
No, it was unusable, not usable. However, we did recycle it.
Okay. Fire Department?
Thank you. Quick update on a couple of big projects we got going. EMS transport services, we're on schedule to begin services early March. And we just received notification today that the ambulance is ready to go. So that was a major obstacle that we got over. We obviously can't do much without an ambulance. So they were able to get it here pretty quick. And so we should have that shortly. And the second one, also, we've been taking applications the last couple weeks for EMTs and paramedics. So we're on schedule there.
Do you have an estimate on when you're going to fill that in, those positions?
So we're scheduled to be up and running March 2nd.
Okay.
That's the first Monday there in March.
Yeah.
So and we're on schedule to hopefully meet that deadline. So, and then the second one is our training tower move. I can tell council that we are working diligently to get that accomplished. There are some challenging aspects to it, but our working group is meeting tomorrow to put the costs together and continue to move the plan forward to getting that process done.
Mr. Mayor, can I say something?
Yeah.
You're reading our mind. You're reading my mind, Chief. You know, that maintenance facility is going to bring a lot of economic benefit to Selma, and it's not like we want to see the end of the fire training facility. Just move it over, and now that the dirt has been, deemed to be non-toxic and non-hazardous, really hoping that you can expedite that so that facility, we can, get started on that and have that benefit come to town. As you've heard tonight, the revenue already from that is really helping the city, and to actually have the facility there and all the benefits that will accrue, I think far outweigh the trouble from, moving the fire training center over to the maintenance yard. So really hope that you'll keep us posted on that and you'll expedite that.
Absolutely. We'll have continuous reports to keep you updated on the progress.
When was this ready? Chief Dick?
As you may have seen, we did make 3 arrests in the children that were accidentally or mistakenly shot, I believe back in September. We served some search warrants also in connection with that and recovered a shotgun from one of the subjects. The district attorney filed charges the 3rd day after they were in custody. We filed them as last days, and the case is moving forward, and they feel confident about the prosecution of that case based upon everything we have. So that case is now before the courts and will be dealt with there. We have some other aspects we're working on involving some other shootings and moving forward with that. We have also recently been able to, through the insurance from our totaled car, purchased a new vehicle to replace the one that was struck by a intoxicated driver. And so that vehicle should be on the road at the latest by the middle of March. So that is moving forward in a replacement of a vehicle that was lost. So as I said, we have other cases we're working forward, doing search warrants on, and as I'm able to expand on those, I will, if they're not going to hamper the case by making that public.
Thank you. Recreation?
Not to report, just to follow up with Shane, we will be doing an opening for the playground equipment, so we'll get that scheduled once we know the exact timeline.
Thank you, Mike.
Can you ask him about when's the grant, when are we going to know about the grant, Prop 68? Have we heard anything more?
Oh, we've answered some questions. We had the site visit, so late February, March is the last information Richard and I had received.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I heard it was March. Yeah, that they were going to say.
Yeah.
So, all right. Council reports? Councilman Avalos?
Okay, I have, yes, I attended Fresno County Supervisor swearing of Buddy Mendez as the chair. And also, as the Freemasons had an event here in Selma for the new president, and me and Franco were there, and Franco gave a proclamation, and we were part of that ceremony, and also attended the prayer breakfast, which was good. It was a good event for the community. It's good to be spiritual, involved in the year 2020, move forward. Everybody needs spiritual in their souls to be good, or try to be good. And also I attended Larry's funeral, and it was, Larry was, he went to school here, and he was, believe it or not, you're not going to believe this, he was a choir kid for the church, St. Joseph Church. He was a altar boy, believe it or not. It was amazing. Amazing story about Larry. He's kind of funny when people grow up in a community, they come back and give, and it's untold stories about his life, there. He did come back, and he did invest in the city of Selma. He put homes up, and when I've been on the council, he's putting up homes, and I've been on the council for almost 16 years, and he put homes up he put them up, and in the short time I see the Ravens, Rose Estates, J.J. Gardner. Now we're getting the Amberwood project up and running. It's nice to see that, and that's less than 18 years. It's amazing the progress that we've done in a short time, and it's kind of funny, even though the economic crunch took place, but it's nice to see that things are actually moving forward. But they're going to move faster now. Things are going to move faster, and the reason why I say that is. You're not going to believe this. The new rocket, it's called X-37B. It's a space plane. Believe it or not, it was in orbit for 780 days, in our orbit in space. Robotic engineering, like Disneyland, the guys in robotic engineering, all this time, and it came down just recently, not too long ago. New technology, and also, and we have a new branch of service now. It's called, I think it's Space Force. Space Force. Can you imagine that? It's amazing. We're stepping into the dynamic space age, And the other thing too, you brought a good point up on the dirt on the maintenance facility. How soon can we, Teresa? How soon can we move that dirt out of there? Because really, I like to get that thing out of there. Like Scott's right. As soon as we get those guys. In the transportation operation up and running, that's more revenue to the city of Selma, and I think time is the essence for us, because Moses has been very.
Yes, we do want to move that forward.
He's very, how would I say it? Very appreciative. I've been very appreciative of him and his staff.
And we are as well. We do. The team is working to put together the plan and bring back additional information for you as to. The needs, the timing, and the needs to make sure that all the pieces of that come together here in the very near future. So.
And since I got you there, Teresa, now what is the time on the training facility for the training for the maintenance for the train education program?
So
was there a timeline where how soon can we get that up and running?
An approved agreement. You have all approved the agreement with the state.
Yeah, we approved the agreement, yes.
And then that was sent to the state, and now they need to execute the agreement. So everything is lined up in place, but that is where the ball is in the state's court to get an executed agreement back to us so that we can work with our subcontractor and also finish acquiring the property. So we have.
Oh, okay. So
things are in line. We just need from the state.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm touching base with them on a weekly basis now to see what their status is, because we are having inquiries from the EDC and the facility itself that we're going to be leasing. So I'm constantly following up with them now. I spoke to Diana, who is the individual that works here in the local office. She was finalizing the budget. I believe that was last week. I was expected to hear from her last week. Did not that got happened, so I'm going to follow up again this week. So now I'm just constantly poking them. Where are we at? Because it just needs to be executed at this point from their side.
The reason why I say that, because the things the 2020 moving forward, and I like to see things move quickly. When I came on the council, it was a good time and it was a bad time. The economic crunch, and it was very heartbreaking because I had to make a decision laying people off. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that one bit. And we brought them back, and we found jobs for the people that we did lay off, which was good. But now the economy is moving in a positive direction in this, in City of Selma, and I want things, go back the way when I first came on board, where things were looking good, and where, you know, I didn't have to make these ugly cuts and prioritize what I had to do, and I didn't want to do that. But right now, the City of Selma is actually financially, because we had to fix our credit rating. We had to fix that to get our bond rating up and correct it. We did that, and that was a sacrifice that we had to make that, and we did that very diligently. And and now our ratings are good. We're doing the right direction. We're moving in the right direction, and I want us to continue moving in the right direction as a group here. So, and I think, you know, it is time. It is time now. Hey, step to the plate, hit the ball out of the park.
Thank you for your comments, Jim. Councilman Robertson?
Thanks. So I had a meeting with Mike Kirshner and Lori Klatt, Swim America, about our Selma swim program at the Selma High School. 2019 attendance was up 57%, from 700 to 1,124 swimmers. We lowered the price to $1, you know, from $2. I don't know if that had any effect, but it brought more kids out to be able to use the Selma High pool, which I think is good, along with the Aqua Bears. You know, people learn how to swim that way. So that was definitely good. I'm really encouraged by tonight. You know, another building block, another tool in our economic development toolbox with a facade improvement program, which we can keep tweaking and working on. It'd be nice to have an economic enterprise zone as well for financial benefits in our areas of our city that need it. I liked how we did the nuisance abatement, because, you know, what people are saying, we hear out there, the place, Selma looks bad, you know, I mean, let's clean it up. Got a cleanup crew coming in, volunteering. We got this nuisance abatement. Well, you know, our city, the buildings are cruddy, the landlords don't care. Well, here you go. Here's some incentive, here's some financial incentive. So we keep making these steps to make our city more livable, more saleable, more attractive economically, and I think that's really important. And I do appreciate, when I got on 7.5 years ago, going on 8 years ago, we were just coming out, and we had no money. I mean, absolutely no surplus. And we've gone from that to $1 million surplus, you know, so we're moving forward economically every year. We put, you know, Vineyard Estates in with G.J. Gardner in terms of the housing, and always looking to move forward on the north side too. And that was, you know, Mr. Raven, and that's the Amberwood project too. Mr. Raven was a pioneer in home building, and I hope that he comes back, his legacy is fulfilled, and his heirs can, you know, put those single family homes in, and that you know, the city can move forward with the sewer lines too, depending on what we get. I did have a question about transit-oriented development funds. There's $990,000 in that fund. I think the deadline for the TOD grant, as it's known, is end of February. Are we working on putting something in for infill? Because last year, I think Townsend helped us get $280,000 for move the bus stop, you know, and other related items on Tucker Street, but they recommended that we do something on infill.
We have talked with Townsend and are having some internal discussions about what we should be applying for. Thank you for the reminder about the fact that COG recommended we look at infill.
The deputy director recommended that we go for an infill grant.
Okay, because we had talked about perhaps doing some planning aspects, but thank you for that reminder. We will look at that as well.
Absolutely, and I know Reedley was very successful in getting the infill grant last year, and we have some similarities in our downtowns, and they used it to their advantage. Maybe we could use it for speakers. You never know. Another thing everybody knows, we've had some pretty highly visible vacancies in our town with Office Max and Save Mart and Payless leaving, and I think, you know, we've got this event coming up in May called the International Council of Shopping Centers, biggest in the world. All these shopping center people go there. They converge on Vegas, and I know I've been there a couple times, and you know, it's okay, you know, going from table to table and leaving Selma's card, and it's educational. But what I would like to ask is, you know, can we as a council go there this year and really leverage our city and try to get some occupancies there, try to get people together that normally wouldn't, like a commercial real estate broker, like the property owners. They all seem to go to Vegas for this event. We get them in one place. Why couldn't we see if we could put them together with the owners or the managers of Ross
Target.
and Marshall and Target and these stores that we all want
Scott,
to have here?
sorry, I want to talk about that subject, so
Okay.
I should hold that conversation, and we'll continue it in my
Okay.
talk, because I have something similar to that on that.
Okay, all right. So that would be my appeal for that this could actually be a productive year to go to the ICSC as a council members that can and want to make it. I was thrilled about the 3 suspects that were arrested from that shooting incident on October 13th, but the way I heard about it was Centaya Rose from ABC 30. She called me and said, hey, what's going on with this shooting? And I didn't know. I would appreciate a heads up, communication when we get something like that. Again, kudos to the department making that arrest and going forward on the prosecution, but just let us in on it, if you would, please, in the future. Another thing on the public safety, how ironic that one unit was hit by a drunk driver, because it just seems like there are a lot of DUIs out there. Can we look to fund more DUI checkpoints? I realize there was a training issue. We had to have training. That's been taken care of. Are we in line to do more this year?
We have people lined up for the classes when they come available. I believe they are February or March is the training they're going to. And so once that is completed, then we should be ready to roll.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Just
And then,
Memorial Day.
a last thing, I had a citizen contact me and say, they really had trouble with the city getting a business license. So just want to make sure that we're always customer friendly. We treat the public as, as our customers, and we're always I know I've talked with the city manager about this particular incident several times. I just think it's important to put our best foot forward there. It really is, because that's the face that we show people when they come into our city. And finally, maybe someday we could get that meeting with the school board. We could have a joint meeting with the school board, because I know they have lots of things going on over there. They have lots of issues, and it'd be nice to finally have a get-together with them at some point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mayor Pro Tem Guerra?
Okay, well, for this week, it was a very difficult week. I'd have to say I attended several funerals, rosaries, and viewings, again, including Mr. Raven's, which was, very difficult. But I did, out of the 2 weeks, I did attend a ribbon cutting for Bennett and Bart that collaborated, which is always great because they're bringing more business, which gives us more jobs for our city. So that was really nice. And other than that, that's pretty much for me.
All right, thank you. Okay, well, I have a lot of things to list here, but only because it went back since December. But early in December on 12/3, I went to a dinner event with Councilmember Trujillo, and we went to that event because the Secretary of State was supposed to speak there. So, well, maybe we'll meet him. Lo and behold, not only did we meet him, we were sat right next to him on his table by just coincidence. So we had a nice long chat with Alex Padilla, Secretary of State of California. So sometimes when you go to events, you never know who you're going to run into. So, and hopefully that's to start a great relationship with the city of Selma with him. On 12/7, going back to 12/7, I participated in the Chamber Christmas Parade, if you can remember that far, and the Christmas tree lighting. On 12/8, I volunteered to serve food for the Selma Business Alliance. Actually, all the council members were there in one way or the other for the Bandits Youth Football Bandits Championship Banquet. They were valiant champions. Both them and Selma High were valiant champions, and both of them did it on the road because we had no stadium. So great job there for our youth. I attended our first COG meeting, which actually rescheduled for lack of a quorum. And the rural transportation mitigation fee, they did have to increase the fee by $400, but it's the first fee increase they did in 10 years, and we're still the lowest fee in the Central Valley. So unfortunately, we don't like to see fee increases, but, once every 10 years, I guess, is we're going to have to live with that. I went to a ribbon cutting of the Ag Wellness Center and Roscoe Dogs. I attended the Selma Minister Alliances Group meeting. I had a meeting with the city manager and Father Lupe Rios. I had a volunteer at the Exceptional Youth in Sports Special Needs banquet, Christmas banquet. That was a great time. Me and Council Mayor Pro Tem Guerra had a nice meeting and tour with staff and Assembly of Rambula. And I volunteered at the SBA Cultural Festival. Along with Jim, I attended Fresno County Mendes Chair and the Guard Bennett ribbon cutting and the Masonic Lodge installation of officers. And we had a really nice this month meeting with and we're going to get more update on this, right, Teresa? Our meeting with the mayors of Dinuba and Kingsburg about somehow partnering together to get some funding for our Mountain View interchange.
Yes, we'll be looking at a resolution that the jurisdictions can support an alternative for, so
Right,
that we
and
have
then,
a unified.
But we're going to get a workshop as well with perhaps just refreshing council on the alternatives.
Okay, so we want to do a workshop on the council alternatives, have Caltrans come back, or do
Or just
something
kind
with
of-
COG,
Just kind of explain what we're doing, or just put on the agenda as a discussion item in the future.
along with the resolution or prior?
Along with the resolution.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
So, and basically what we're trying to talk there is about making that Mountain View a regional project because it moves up in the point systems and its safety ratings is not very high right now. We also had a nice meeting with the EDC and the city manager, and then recently some of us attended the mayor's breakfast, which I want to say thank you to the Selma's Christian Ministry Network for bringing that back. And I attended Selma Rotary today. And this Friday, we're having a Team Selma meeting, so I don't know if any of you guys have RSVP'd, but if you haven't, Councilman Robertson, if you're available, it'd be great to have you there. It'd be a nice handoff.
Who's the rotation? I thought it went in rotation.
Well, nobody RSVP'd is last I heard.
Well, I wasn't invited.
Mm.
I didn't hear anything about it.
I didn't get one either.
Yeah.
I'll have to check.
Okay. If you guys check your calendar, it would be nice to have you there, Scott. And then ICS, there's one, like as Councilman Robertson mentioned, there's one in Las Vegas, but there's also one in Monterey. And our meeting with EDC felt that it was important that we actually, kind of what you're talking about, Scott, about putting that team, that synergy together, that we actually send a representative to both, because the ones in Monterey are businesses strictly looking to do work here in California, and at the same time, we can build off that energy and do another group in Monterey. So what I'd like to see is a team that will go to both. So some of us will go to Monterey, and then some of us can go to follow up and do in Las Vegas. And we can talk about how that goes, but Mayor Pro Tem, I think you'd be excellent for Las Vegas, being that you're on the five cities to lead that team. And
I think we'll have a discussion among all of us about who wants to go to that, right?
yeah, I
You're
think,
not going to assign us to go to that.
no, I think what I'm saying is I think we all should go to at least one of them. That's what I'm saying.
We could talk about it, definitely.
Yeah.
So Monterey or Las Vegas, right? Because there's two, do you know what month, what?
I think Monterey's in March and Las Vegas in May, and I actually have
One's in March.
one's
One's
in.
coming up first, Monterey's coming up first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
one was
actually,
first, and then
for your
May
record,
is out Vegas.
here are the dates, and one form is Monterey, and the other form is Las Vegas. Here you go, Jim. And there's God, that's about, one more thing. I was looking at the calendar, and our April 6th meeting falls on Easter or spring recess. So I'd like to see, look at that, if there's no time-sensitive priorities in that, that we can see if we can look into canceling that, if it's feasible. And with that, that's all I have. Oral communications. Notice to the public at all times, excuse me, I wasn't wearing my glasses. Notice to the public, at this time, any member of the public shall address the council regarding any items over which the council has jurisdiction. No actions or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issue raised will be referred to the city manager for review. Members of the public shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Anybody wishing to approach?
1057 Mill Street, Rose Robertson. I'm just going back to that $18,000 public safety fund that you mentioned. And hopefully you guys are going to bring that back to allocate on how to use that. And I know it'd probably be better to wait for the new chief, whoever gets hired. I also like to say that kudos to some of these new officers and the officers in the PD. They're doing a really good job. It seems to be somewhat quiet. However, we don't want to just assume for us citizens not to continue to be the eyes and ears and be supportive of these officers. Also, going back to that $18,000, like to also see some that money absolutely start getting those DUI checks once they do get trained. I wasn't aware that there's training for that. And also, we would love to see some of that funding go towards buyback guns during maybe, Easter, for Easter baskets. From what I understood, I checked into Fresno City. They would set up a DUI, not a DUI check, but whatever the truck or however they do the canopy with the Selma PD, and they just, no questions asked, you return a gun for $100. And it's a big turnout. They allocate about $5,000 for that. And this is Fresno. We probably wouldn't need that much, but just to try that out first here in Selma, I think that would be great. We want to stay on top of the public safety. So people will want to bring their businesses here, know that if you do bring your businesses, they're also going to be protected at all times. So absolutely, I want to again, kudos to the PD out there that are doing their jobs, and the citizens are definitely going to be there to continue to help PD however necessary. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts. Anyone else wish to speak?
Paula Rogers. I just want to piggyback on what Rose said with the public safety funds, and kudos to the police department. It's been very impressive to see some arrests coming through on some of these horrific crimes. With some of the money that the $18,000 that's there, I was wondering if maybe we could, once those funds are exhausted, maybe open it up so some of the public, I contribute, as I'm sure many others do, to a lot of the fundraising efforts that go on because families need to pay for funerals and what have you. But maybe a fund where we could set up and expand on that money for what do you call it? Crime Stoppers, reporting, where people can feel safe to call in and report that they know who committed a crime. Because I would much rather donate money to some of those kind of funds where we can actually catch criminals right away so that maybe we can prevent a future incident from happening that affects a family. Did I explain that right?
Yeah, you want to donate to a reward type program.
Yeah, something like
yeah.
that. And I know that I've talked to other colleagues and business owners here in Selma, and they would be open to such a program as well. And we could help some of those efforts and get some of these situations resolved faster.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Allen, Executive Director of Selma Chamber. Just want to thank you all for your continued support of the businesses that choose to come to Selma and attending ribbon cuttings. We have one more this month. On January 30th, we have a ribbon cutting for our new Verizon store, the cellular cells. That will be at noon. You will all be getting flyers. They're going to have a nice spread for us. But if you haven't had a chance to go into the store, it's gorgeous. They have a great staff, and so we look for a great partnership between them and the city for a long time. So again, January 30th at noon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
All right, so moved.